third, Stephen A. Which Rodgers do you prefer?
Well, first off, did Lazard take the tape from the San Francisco game in the postseason when he was wide open and he forced it to Devontae Adams and he ended up losing the game and he was wide open in midfield? How about Alan Lazard do that? That's number one. Thank you, Ryan, laughing. Number two, they had an angry Rodgers last year in Green Bay. How'd that work out?
Good
The whole
point.
team was a disaster. The receivers couldn't stand him. There was no chemistry. They couldn't beat Detroit at the end of the year. There was a bad vibe. The fan base was down on him. They need a happy Rodgers. And not only that, wrong as usual, get us off to a bad start on this beautiful day here at the tennis. Wrong because the Jets are a team that doesn't have a lot of confidence. They haven't done anything forever. The coach has done nothing. The players have done nothing. You need him to sort of pep everybody up, pat him on the back, pat him in the rear end, get the most out of him. They are not an experienced bunch to take the criticism. So they need the happy Rodgers in camp in 2023.
RC?
No, listen, I've been at Jets practice twice. He is happy Aaron Rodgers, but he's also Aaron Rodgers that's understanding how to lead a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 12 years. He's a guy that's demanding excellence. He's demanding discipline. He's demanding attention to detail, intensity at practice, but he's providing the same thing. Aaron Rodgers is practicing with the New York Jets and leading the New York Jets, working with the New York Jets like he isn't a four-time MVP despite what he told Jaheed Ward on Hard Knocks. He's not behaving that way. He's becoming one of the team. He's ingratiating himself into the locker room. I love the Aaron Rodgers we get right now. And when you've accomplished what he's accomplished, you can cuss people like Alan Lazard out because they have that respect for you. But you also have to get in the trenches with them. You also have to do the work. You also have to be their friend, be their brother, be their teammate, be their leader. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers is doing all of that. You can't have just one. It can't be angry Aaron Rodgers, and it can't be happy Aaron Rodgers. It has to be angry Aaron Rodgers when you need an angry quarterback. It has to be happy Aaron Rodgers when guys are doing things good. And sometimes it has to be compassionate and understanding Aaron Rodgers when things are going on in players' lives or in players' careers that he can help with. That's what quarterbacks do. That's what the Tom Bradys were great at. The Drew Breeses were great at. All of these guys understood that you had to be all of these different things in the moment. And it seems that more than ever, Aaron Rodgers is embracing that now. That's what they need from him in New York in order to win games. And I believe, at least from my firsthand knowledge, that Aaron Rodgers is providing that. And you can see the confidence in this team building, not only in themselves because Aaron Rodgers is there, but in Aaron Rodgers as a leader.
Well, first of all, I think RC hit it right on the head with the multitude of things that he just explained. But see, Doggy, here's the problem. You know, you want him to come from Green Bay to New York and sing Kumbaya one another, hug one another, and just be friends. No, you've got things to accomplish. This organization has been football purgatory for a lot of years. You ain't won a division title since 2002. You ain't been in the playoffs in the last 12 years. There was nobody on the squad to hold anybody accountable because you didn't have anybody worthy of that kind of respect. So if you show up with the New York Jets like Aaron Rodgers has, yeah, you could look at the fact that that didn't help them last season because they had a bad year last year, and he had a bad year last year according to his standards. But the reality is that last year didn't make Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers long before last season arrived. This is a four-time league MVP. This is a Super Bowl champion. This is one of the elite quarterbacks to ever play this game. Universally recognized as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history in terms of his talent, okay? And he's coming to an organization that literally had Mike White and Zach Wilson last year. This dude is the closest thing to a savior in the National Football League right now because you're piggybacking off of who his predecessors were, and it was hot garbage. So the fact of the matter is that Aaron Rodgers rolls up in there, and what he's able to say to them is, damn it, this is why you lose it. You like baseball, right? You love baseball, right? I know you were a fan of Lou Piniella. I know you like that.
Oh, I like Lou.
You remember when Lou Piniella took over the Tampa Bay Rays? Remember that years ago? And you remember when he was kicking stuff in the dugout and said, no wonder you lose 100 effing times times each season and all of this other stuff. And he was holding dudes accountable. You had Madden, who was doing the same thing as a manager. The Billy Martins, the Earl Weavers of the world. I'm sure you can appreciate that. Football, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, and some of the great ones. Andy Reid is somebody who holds folks accountable. He ain't cussing folks out like that, but who knows? Maybe sometimes he has. And then when you look at the great quarterbacks who've done it, the Tom Brady's have done it in the past. We've seen him on the sideline with engaging in histrionics and going off and being very, very demonstrative in his displeasures. We've seen this from other quarterbacks throughout NFL history. We didn't complain about them doing it. What are we going to complain about Aaron Rodgers doing it for?
Well, he's on a new team, Steve.
So?
I mean, Brady was on the Patriots. If he's kicking their fanny, let him kick his fanny. I mean, he's on a new team that hasn't won a thing. And you just highlighted it. And now he's going to go in there and throw everything.
What do you mean he hasn't won a thing?
No, his team hasn't won a thing.
Exactly. And so he's showing them how to win. He's showing them how to win, not by hugging on them and letting them know that the mistakes you make, the mistakes that you make, one mistake across the game. He's not sitting up there saying, hey, well, you know what? This one mistake is no big deal. Let me hug you. Let me cajole you. Let me sit up there and say, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
How is that going to be productive if a tight end runs a bad route as a young guy and he goes back to the huddle and Rodgers is reaming him out?
You know, years ago I was on TV, not yesterday when Joe Montana came on, but years ago I was on TV with Joe Montana. And I asked Joe Montana a question about people like T.O. and others and, you know, how would you be if such and such made this mistake or acted up or did X, Y, and Z? Joe Montana said, I'd look at them and say, you want the ball? You want the ball? Do it again. Do it again. See if you see the ball. I remember Isaiah Thomas was playing with the Detroit Pistons, and John Sally, he fed John Sally the ball for a dunk, and John Sally took a layup instead and missed it. Isaiah Thomas walked up to him and said, you missed that again, you won't see the basketball for a month. Excuse me. It's about accountability. And the great ones have earned the right to hold others accountable, particularly people who haven't done a damn thing. First of all, we all know the greatness of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and we know that you can rely on that offense. But we got to give the Chiefs defense some credit for them ultimately capturing the Super Bowl last year. And Chris Jones had a lot to do with that. And to not have him in there pressuring the quarterback, to not have him in there registering sacks, their defense is severely compromised. That puts more pressure on the Kansas City Chiefs to produce. And remember, this year they won't have Andy Reid won't have Eric Bieniemy to lean on. He'll have to do it himself. So the combination of losing a potent figure within your offense, like an Eric Bieniemy, because that's what I believe he was, combine that with the fact that your defense is going to be compromised because you don't have your best player on the defensive side of the ball available to you. That's going to put even more pressure on the Patrick Mahomes, the Travis Kelce's, Kadarius Toney's, and others to come through and do what they're capable of doing. I have no doubt they're capable of doing it, but asking them to carry that load in a loaded AFC. You're talking about Buffalo, New York, Miami, Cincinnati, Baltimore, even Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, okay? Even the Chargers with Justin Herbert, all right? I just think it's a lot to ask. You need all your horses, and I think it's a mistake that the Kansas City Chiefs haven't resolved it.
All right, here's one for you. Yeah. When the fat guy from Rapid, when he goes to Vegas next week for the over-under pick.
So about Fat Rob,
Fat Rob.
That used to be the Catholic priest at the Vatican in Rome.
That's it.
Talk about him? Okay, Fat Rob.
When he goes to Vegas Tuesday for the over-under bets.
Wait, I got to pause for a second. How do you go from being a priest at the Vatican
Good question.
to going to Vegas?
To a degenerate gambler. I can't figure it out.
Right.
But anyway.
Because
I thought it's supposed to go the other way around.
Find love.
What'd you say, Ryan?
Would you say, Ryan?
That's divine intervention.
What'd you say, Ryan?
That man getting right.
Divine intervention
Divine
is correct.
intervention reverse.
Okay.
But when he goes to Vegas on Tuesday at South Point,
Yeah.
do you think that we are not going to play the Chiefs over-under because Chris Jones is not on the team? What? I'm not touching. I don't care about Chris Jones. Mahomes is there. Kelsey's there. Reed's there. The history of winning. They can have me as a defensive lineman. It means nothing. As long as the quarterback and Kelsey and they lost Tyreek Hill. Did that hurt him last year? That is nobody care. I can't believe you're making a big deal about that. They're an offensive team. The over-under number won't move one way or the other. Stu, take the over at 11.5. I don't care who they lose on defense. It means nothing. Mahomes is the quarterback, the greatest maybe of all time. That's all that counts. Means zero.
Okay.
Chiefs over.
RC, defense wins championships, I
Mad
thought.
Dog? No, Mad Dog, don't do this. The way that you have gone back and you bring up Lombardi and Tom Landry and all of these people from the past that let you know that football was about defense, yes, the game has changed. And me, I am also always excited and think the Kansas City Chiefs will win if Patrick Mahomes is at quarterback. But the Patrick Mahomes of that defense is Chris Jones. The guy that gets everything going for that team is Chris Jones. He's the one that creates pressure from the outside, that can move from tackle to in to put plays, to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. He's the guy that causes sacks, fumbles. He's the one that makes offense adjust the way that they're going to block up front, whether or not they're going to double team him, whether they're going to slide the line to him, bring him back in order to chip him if he's on the outside. Chris Jones dictates everything Steve Spagnuolo does defensively. We have to remember the back end is talented. There are 7 very young and talented guys on that back end that athletically can do anything you ask them to do, but it starts with Chris Jones. Chris Jones is the all-pro. Chris Jones is the one that deserves to be paid like Aaron Donald. Chris Jones is the only player in the entire world that is even in that conversation with AD right now. And so if they don't have Chris Jones, I agree with you. It may not matter if we're going to the Vatican or if we're going to Vegas to place a bet on the over-under in week 1. It's going to matter when it gets down to playing the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to matter when it gets down to playing the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. All of these teams that can actually compete, these teams that can score, these teams that can play defense. And I want you to remember something else. The last 2 AFC championships against the Cincinnati Bengals were not high-scoring games. They won this year, and it wasn't because Patrick Mahomes went absolutely crazy. It was because Joe Burrow couldn't find a way to score late. Joe Burrow couldn't produce over 21 points. That's the reason they won. Do not forget, defense has helped this team, and that starts with Chris Jones.
Who's more important to the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill or Chris Jones?
Chris Jones.
Well, before Hill went to Miami and he won the Super Bowl, if I asked you that question last year before the season began, Hill or Jones?
Here's the deal. You don't get to do that.
Well, why not?
Because you asked the question. You asked the question.
Before the season,
your answer was proven wrong. Well, you brought up the question this morning. You didn't bring up the question before last season. You brought up the question today. And you bring up the question today, the fact of the matter is it was proven that the Kansas City Chiefs could win without Tyreek Hill. It hasn't been proven they could win without Chris Jones. And as RC pointed out, they were not high-scoring games, okay? So you got Cincinnati waiting for you, potentially Baltimore waiting for you, potentially Buffalo waiting for you, potentially Miami waiting for you, potentially the New York Jets waiting for you. And by the way, when they listen, Miami lost to Buffalo in the postseason, 34-31, with some dude named Skylar Thompson at the quarterback position. Not Tua Tagovailoa. Miami is not a team to be ignored, okay? So I'm looking at it, and I'm saying a plethora of teams within the AFC conference. You brought up Tyreek Hill, all right? Yes, he was talking junk, and he should have because he is elite. He's the cheater. But without him, they won the Super Bowl championship.
But remember, Jones has to play after 8 weeks, so he doesn't get any service time. Yeah. So he can hang out all he wants. Doesn't make any difference. By the time that you guys are talking about these huge games in postseason play, Cincinnati, you got to stop them. You got to stop this. You got to stop. He's going to be playing. It's only 8 weeks, Stephen. It's not the whole season. Let him sit on his rear end. Who cares?
But we're pointing out the importance of him, and you're dismissing it.
Well, you're dismissing it. The holdout means nothing.
Hold on, excuse me. If you knew that he was going to be back within 8 weeks, why did you tell us? We don't care. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Who's thinking about him? It doesn't matter.
I use that as my ace in the hole.
Well, it was an ace in the hole.
The argument's over. Exactly. You have been defeated.
No, you have.
No,
you have.
It make no sense. He's back in week 9. Who cares? They're going to be 6-2.
Mad Dog.
You are lost.
Bro, how does Mad Dog get to debate and score the debate at the same time? How does Mad Dog get to do that? He's debating, he's asking questions, answering his own questions, and then saying that he used his ace in the hole and he's unequivocally won. Mad Dog is tripping.
Yeah.
Listen, we're talking about Chris Jones' importance, and his importance matters. Yes, this is crazy. But, Molly, this is what I want to say about Chris Jones. Chris Jones will be back in 8 weeks, and Chris Jones has to come back in. But there's nothing to say that an upset Chris Jones can't somehow find a way to be in the building and not on the field. And so the Kansas City Chiefs need to be very cognizant of that and what now players are using to help them gain leverage. And Chris Jones could do that, and especially if this team isn't playing great defensively.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.